This is Super Yacht News in association with Go Earth Boating, navigating boat buyers to better deals. Hi, welcome back to the channel. So there's been another dive boat incident in Egypt in the Red Sea. You might remember last year or even earlier this year we did some articles about a number of incidents that happened in the Red Sea. This one is a vessel. They call them yachts like this. They give them names like the super yachts and they design them to look like super yachts, but they are not super yachts. They are very basic, made out of wood as well. But anyway, this vessel's called MV Seaphoria, like Euphoria. And the vessel actually ran over a reef in Abu al-Kizan, which is near Marsa Alam, which is in the same area where an incident happened on the same day last year, exactly 12 months ago. With another vessel run by the same company. Well, this vessel, there's only one photograph that we can find online of this incident that happened on the 25th of November, and there's this image that we put on screen here. Now, from what we have been able to uncover, this vessel was actually renamed, and it was actually previously called Motor Yacht Tillus, and it was run by a company called Dive Pro. That's the same company that was operating that vessel a year ago to the day, called Sea Story. That vessel capsized and 11 people didn't make it off that vessel. 28 people initially survived, and there were 5 people trapped inside the vessel who were recovered, but 11 people unfortunately lost their lives, as well as including a couple of Brits. And there was never a good explanation as to what happened. They tried to say that a rogue wave hit the vessel, but the survivors said that they never saw any rogue wave. Also, according to the BBC, after this incident happened, some of the survivors said that they were pressured to sign official witness statements of the event, which were in Arabic, which they couldn't understand, and then they were translated into English by an employee of the boat company, Dive Pro, the company that actually was operating the boat when it had this incident. And they also tried to get them to sign waivers to say that there was no criminal wrongdoing by this company. Now, this company, like I said, they've just had this incident where they've gone onto the reef. Fortunately, nobody was injured, or there was no fatalities in this incident, so that's a good thing. The one a year ago to the day, there were 11 fatalities, and then they had another one, the same company running the same boat, in the February of last year, in which there was a fire on board and there was one fatality, a female. Whenever there's one of these incidents, they always sort of try to blame it on freak weather, and then they always try to say that everything was done to the best of their abilities, and they said that they've received the necessary care and will be accommodated in suitable hotels upon their safe return until official procedures are completed. This is the CDWS, which is like a government ministry in Egypt. And there are other vessels that this company is operating. I'd have to say that, going on one of these dive vessels is that you're taking your life into your own hands. There have been so many of these in the last number of years, last 7 years. I'm actually going to show you a clip from a video that we did last year talking about all of the incidents that there have been since 2017, I think it was. I'll play that clip for you now. 10 shipwrecks in the last 7 years, since 2017. In 2017, the dive boat MY Overseas was evacuated shortly after leaving Hurghada after a fire started in the galley. Everyone evacuated with no fatalities. November 2019, the Red Sea Aggressor 1, the vessel was destroyed by fire, apparently started by lithium batteries being charged. The guest said there was nobody on watch at night. There was no fire watch, no working smoke detectors, no muster drills performed at the start of the trip, poorly trained crew, and one guest diver was killed in that incident. In April 2022, motor yacht Scuba Scene, they call themselves motor yachts, but they're not really, they're dive boats. This vessel sank after a fire. This is one of the vessels operated by Dive Pro Liverboard. There were no smoke detectors activated during the fire, according to guests. Not a single smoke detector on board worked, said one guest who was leading the scuba group on board. The guests were forced to sit on top of the burned out vessel for 24 hours as it was towed back to port by the Egyptian Navy. The vessel later sank. There were no fatalities, amazingly, in that incident. October 2022, the MY Fellow ran aground on a reef at 200 hours. The Fellow was evacuated and 6 guests and 3 crew members incurred minor injuries. The wooden hull liveaboard had major damage and was later declared unfit for repair. Motor yacht Carlton Queen, April 2023, capsized and sank after being refitted with larger superstructure and altered hull. Everybody survived the sinking. We reported on this one at the time. June 2023, the New Dream, formerly named Orion, the New Dream was making night passage to Marsa Alam because one of its passengers showed symptoms of decompression sickness. About 1 a.m., she struck a reef and severely damaged, settled down to depth of her upper deck within a few minutes. No distress radio call was made. Neither were any distress rockets activated. The guests used their flashlights to summon the aid of another passing dive vessel. There were no fatalities, amazingly again. June 2023, the liveaboard motor yacht Hurricane was moored near Elphinstone Reef, a popular dive site in Egypt's Red Sea. The passengers are gathered in the main salon to be briefed for the first dive on the last day of their week-long trip. 2 passengers had decided to sleep in. And then came the fire. It apparently started in the engine room and almost instantly turned into an inferno, quickly engulfing the aft deck of the 125-foot vessel. The 2 passengers who had skipped the first dive perished in the cabins, and apparently the 3rd person who died had gone below to find them and perished too. October 2023, Emperor Echo. In the evening of October 28th, the Emperor Echo was moored at Fury Shoals when unfortunately a lightning storm with strong winds forced the vessel to snag its mooring and get blown onto the reef, resulting in the irreversible damage of the vessel's wooden hull. And there were no fatalities. February 2024, the vessel Sea Legend sank after a fire on February 22nd near the town of El Qasir. The vessel became engulfed in flames around 4 a.m. after a fire started apparently in the galley. The Sea Legend was fully occupied with 17 passengers and 12 crew and 2 dive guides. They abandoned ship within 10 minutes after being awakened. There were no fatalities. And then November 2024, the vessel Sea Story capsizes and sinks after allegedly being hit by a large wave. 31 divers on board and 13 crew. So now if we add on to that, this incident as well in 2025, and this is, like I said, this is 3 incidents with the same company, so I would avoid Dive Pro at all costs. All right, guys, we'll move on to the next story. We've got some photographs here of Project Cosmos. This was seen on the Kiel River in Germany on sea trials. This was on, I think this was yesterday or the day before. 26th of November, I think it was. This is 114 meters, which is 375 foot. This yacht, we broke the news that the owner of this vessel is the Japanese billionaire Yusaka Mazawa. He's the owner of Zozo Town fashion website. We broke that news earlier this year. And the vessel has a fuel cell on board, methanol fuel cells, unlike Breakthrough, which actually has a hydrogen fuel cell. So Cosmos is equipped with traditional engines as well and generators and stuff, so they can do that. That's their main propulsion, but they can also do like 1,000 nautical miles using the methanol fuel cell. So that's one of the first vessels to be built with the fuel cell system on board. All right, so we'll move on. We got some photographs sent in to us a couple of days ago of a tender running aground in Florida. This was on the entrance to Port Everglades, we believe. We weren't quite able to pin down the actual location where this was, but looking at some of the maps, we seem to think it was at that entrance there. we don't have an awful lot of information about the incidents. We can see that the vessel's run aground, and also the little information we do have suggested that there were a number of people on board that appeared to be intoxicated. We were unable to confirm that independently. It happened around 2200 hours local time, and the boat is an Exopar 37, we believe. And as you can see, it's right up on the beach there. Now, this is very similar in terms of, the size of vessel as Real Wild, the boat from Motor Yacht Loon. And you can see how easy it is for them to end up in this situation. Thankfully, they went up onto the beach, and they probably would have just slowed quite quickly, to a standstill rather than hitting the rocks and stopping suddenly. We believe this happened on the 21st of November. So we'll move on. The brand new in-build yacht, Project 6516, has been spotted on the keel in Germany. This is Abeking Rasmussen's latest vessel that they're building. It's a 79.95 meter or 260-foot vessel, and it is being towed there, and it's going to outfitting. It's come out of this main shed where it's being constructed, and it's going to outfitting. Now, we're going to break the news of who has ordered this vessel. This vessel has been ordered by Jan Koum. Now, you probably remember this name, even if you don't know who he is. He's one of the co-founders of WhatsApp. He's worth about $17 billion. And he's already got 200-meter plus super yachts, both called Moonlight. And he's been featured recently on the channel because he's got a lawsuit with a French designer over why he claims he's been ripped off by this French designer. He's got 2 yachts already over 100 meters, and now he's got this other yacht in build. Not quite sure why he wants the 3rd yacht. I'm sure he's got his reasons. But I was talking about it today with the patrons and saying that I can't really understand the 3rd yacht. I can understand multiple yachts in the crazy world that they live in. I've worked for people who have multiple yachts, and the way they use them is generally they'll have one in, say, the Middle East and one in the Americas, and then they can fly on their private plane between the two, right? So they don't, if they're in the Middle East and they want their yacht to be in the States, they're going to have to wait like 3 or 4 weeks for it to get there, right? So they have 2 yachts. This is just some of the thinking behind it. I can't quite understand why he's ordered another one, but why not? It's unclear at the moment if he's keeping both of those other vessels, Moonlights. He might be selling one of them and then ordering this new Abeking and Rasmussen. I don't know. But that is his vessel. So he will be the owner of at least 3 yachts. He used to own some other yachts as well, but I think he might have sold those. Anyway, we'll move on. Got some footage here of Motor Yacht Nord in Malé in the Maldives. This is taken just last week. Contributors said that the yacht has not been hoisting the ensign or flag on the stern of the vessel. As you can see, there's no flag there. Now, just by looking at a photograph of a vessel without a flag doesn't mean that they're not raising it. If it's before 8 a.m. the picture's taken, or after sunset, then they take the flag down anyway. But I did ask, and the person who sent them in said that he's seen that they're not putting the flag up at any point during the day, which is kind of not surprising, really, because it's a Russian registered vessel now, and it's in the islands that are part of the British Commonwealth. So, I can't imagine the Russian flag is the most popular flag right now, regardless of your politics on the subject. They're currently involved in an invasion of another country. So, and also, this vessel, as far as we know, there's a lot of Western crew on this vessel. You mentioned being a British crew member on a Russian flagged vessel and having to go up with the Russian flag in the morning to hoist it onto the flagpole. That would be quite a surreal thing, wouldn't it? With the current state of things, the way they're going, especially when the owner is who he is, right? And like we've mentioned in previous videos, how he's profited from that war in Ukraine. All right, guys, one more thing before I go. In a previous video, I inaccurately referred to the Gulf of Mexico. And why was it inaccurate? Because I was talking about the Panama Canal, and it comes out into the Caribbean Sea, not into the Gulf of Mexico. But because I said the Gulf of Mexico, I got a lot of people, various levels of rudeness, saying that it's the Gulf of America. I'll just give you a little bit of background on why I'm still using the phrase Gulf of Mexico, because it's been called the Gulf of Mexico for 500 years. And it started in 1550 was the earliest known recording of the use of the phrase Gulf of Mexico. Cartographers have used it for, like I said, 500 years. It was formally recognized by the International Hydrographic Organization. Now, I know that in 2025, President Trump said that he signed an executive order to change the name of it, but the change has not been adapted internationally, and the body of water remains officially recognized as the Gulf of Mexico, and that's why I'm using it. I'm still calling it Gulf of Mexico. Obviously, you're free to call it whatever you want, but that does not mean it's political on my part. Trying to correct me with something that is incorrect officially is probably political on your part. So that's all I'll say about that. You can free to call it whatever you want, but as a professional mariner, I'm going to use the actual official name until otherwise notified to not do that, right? So if it gets officially adopted internationally, then we might change it, right? But until then, it stays the Gulf of Mexico. I'll give you an example, and I'm probably going to regret this one because people will start litigating this in the comments, but the Falkland Islands, British territory. But when you go to South America, and even on some maps, it says Las Malvinas. If you go to some countries in South America and you go to the airport and you want to fly to the Falklands, it's actually listed as Las Malvinas, which is what the Argentinians call the islands, right? So, but it's officially British territory and it's called the Falkland Islands. But we're not going to call it Las Malvinas. We're going to call it by its actual official name, right? So there you go. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. If you want to check us out on Patreon, you can do it at patreon.com/esysman. We do lots of behind-the-scenes videos on there. We did one today talking about some of these subjects here. And yeah, join us, patreon.com/esysman. If you've got any information for us about any of these stories or any other stories, if you've seen Amadea, perhaps when you've been going about your business, let us know. You can send it information to us to the email address in the ticker there, and you can also send photos and videos to the link there. They're also in the description of this video as well. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.